Alrighty, good afternoon, everybody. It's technically not afternoon yet, right? Close enough. My name is Gloria Lau, and I'm going to be talking to you about something that's very close to my heart. How do you build data products, and how do you do that in the right order? Now, a little bit about myself outside that glowing intro. Up until about 2 months ago, I used to run the data products team at LinkedIn. My team literally touched everything you ever worked on at LinkedIn. So things like standardization behind all of our recommendation framework, our core profile completeness algorithms, suggestions that we make to improve your profile, or things like search. So that was my team. I recently joined a tiny startup, Timeful, and my team at Timeful works on similar aspects of data. So we build data products. Time is the most valuable resource, and most people don't manage it like one. So what we're trying to do at Timeful is to look at your calendar data, look at your to-dos and your habits, try to figure out how we can build a healthier relationship for you to manage time. We make suggestions on when you should do what, and we try to be smart about it. The more you use it, the smarter it gets. So that's my paid profession. I consider my work at Stanford my volunteering work. I'm a consulting faculty there. My research interest there is in legal informatics. I am pretty sure most of you aren't interested in legal informatics, but if you are, talk to me afterwards. It's a very interesting area, essentially applying machine learning on regulations and the law. So that's about me. Now, why do you care about data products, or what is data products? So data products is a very loaded term, just like data science. There was a quote at some point, I think, someone said something like, in the future, all products are going to be data products. What is data products? Essentially, it is when you have a lot of data, you try to build product on top of said data. And you usually do this by aggregating your data, by modeling your data, and by building something on top of that, usually in the form of some form of recommendation system or suggestions to user using your aggregated data. So if you look at these examples, I think this display is a little blurry, but we'll try. If you look at the upper left-hand corner, that's a classic data product from LinkedIn. We call this JIMBY, jobs you may be interested in. So what does this do? It takes your profile data, it looks at people like you's profile data, and then we try to figure out what kind of jobs LinkedIn might want to be recommending to you. This is actually a pretty crappy recommendation for me. I have no idea what sourcing practice is. It's not a job I'm interested in. But then they take your user feedback and try to build a better data product on top of it. Very similar data products at LinkedIn, things like groups you may like, companies you might want to follow. So those are classic data products. If you look at the bottom, that's when we build data product in your profile. When I think most of us have tried sitting down and writing your resume. You stare at a blank piece of paper. Everybody gets hit with writer's block. How do you start? How do I describe my professional life? So at LinkedIn, we built this little widget here. We call it keyword suggestion. Essentially, we look at your profile data. We look at what other people like you in a similar profession, what they write in their profile, and we try to help you get through that writer's block. So that's another classic example of data product. If you look at the upper right-hand corner, that's what we do at Timeful. That's the Timeful app where you see a view of your calendar. There are meetings that you need to go to, for example, product strategy meeting. There are habits that you want to be creating, for example, yoga. There are these tasks that you want to do. And we take all of these data, we try to find time on your calendar, we try to find productive time, we try to figure out when you're most likely to do what. So that's another example of data product. Now you see a common theme here. We take your user data, we look at the rest of the population's data, and we try to make some sort of recommendation, and we present that back to users. So this is classic data products problem. Now, why do we care about doing data products in the right order? First of all, I can tell you from experience, at LinkedIn, at little startups, or the startups that I'm advising, this is one of the most important questions everybody tries to answer. How do we build data product in the right order? This looks like a right order to me. You start off by building some form of data infrastructure. After all, you need to service your data somehow. So usually these are some sort of key value store. Your data product typically consists of the key being the member ID and the value being the recommendation you want to be returning. So that's your data infra layer. And then you go into this loop. Building data product is a very iterative process. You go into this loop of having your data scientist build an offline model, and then you bring it online into data product. Once you get real user data, user uses your data product, you have some sort of user feedback in what they click on and what they don't click on. And then you try and go and improve this model. I put range equals 3 here because I can guarantee you, usually the first time around, you're super excited. You're building this new model to describe a new data product, you push it out to production, you see some traction. And then you loop back. The second time around, you're still quite excited because now you have real data. You want to improve your model. You want to improve your data product. The third time around, it's when your data scientists come back and tell you, hey, I want to do something new. Can you find someone to maintain this? So that's why this is the usual order of business when you build a data product. Now, this looks pretty reasonable, right? And we actually follow this order in a lot of our data products. I'll give you some examples. So one example, it's one of my favorite products at LinkedIn. About a month ago, LinkedIn came up with college ranking. If you guys know typical college rankings by US News and World Report, usually college rankings are built using survey data. LinkedIn came up with college ranking with career outcome data, meaning what you do after you graduate with that degree. So what we do is, well, we don't need to care about data infra at LinkedIn because this is LinkedIn, we already have data infrastructure layer. So we go into modeling. There's massive amount of data science effort in the modeling behind the scene that's overly simplified with people and houses. So what we do is we define what is a desirable career outcome in order to build college ranking. What is a desirable career outcome? You need to find desirable companies. So that little picture with people and houses in it, it shows you how do we find desirable companies. We look at essentially company transitions and how well companies retain talent. So we built this model. We spent a lot of time building this model to represent desirable companies. And then we push it out as a real data product online, and you can see some results. We see user play with it, and then you iterate. So that's a classic example of the order of building data product at LinkedIn. Now another example. Since now I work for a little startup, I don't have a visual designer to write pretty pictures. I just pick a random picture of my 2-year-old reading books to represent modeling. So very similar process. We build model. We take your data of your calendar data, your habit data, your scheduling data. We take that data, we look at the data. So we look at habits like exercise or drink water. We look at when people are acting on these habits. We classify these intention objects. And then we try to build a model to predict when it's the most likely time for you to act on these habits. And then we build it into a beta product. So once the product goes out, we get user feedback, and then we update our model. That same loop, that same iteration goes on and on. So that's how we build data products at Timefold too. So you see a similar theme here. That order seems to work. Now, what can go wrong? The challenge here is that once you follow this order of building data products, you will see many little issues popping up in this process. And it is a classic problem when you're doing stuff iteratively. For example, what can go wrong? When you're building your model, you could see that, oh, we're missing a tracking code. Or some of the tracking codes are overloaded, meaning some events are tracked with the same tracking code. Some events might not even be tracked, which means it could affect your ability to model. So do you go and fix that issue? Sounds important. Or sometimes your power user computation could take forever. Do you go and then optimize for that computation? So that's similar. These are challenges that can pop in, and they all ask for resource. How do you figure out if you want to invest time in fixing these issues? Some more examples of what can go wrong and what are the competing priorities in this plan, in this order. Actually, this is one of my favorite examples. When you build models, you're a data scientist, oftentimes we'll come back and tell you, we have sparse data issue. We don't have enough data. It builds a pretty crappy model. Can we ask users for more data? Can we nudge users for more data? Of course, more data beats better algorithm. But do you want to be doing that? Do you want to go and build another layer? Do you want to build another data product to capture more data? So this is another competing priority, whether it would definitely benefit the system, but you're not sure if you should be investing time in that. Another example, I'll go through that example later. It's about standardization. All of your recommendation system sits on top of a standardized layer. Do you invest time in doing that? Do you invest time in improving your standardization so that you have better recommendations? So you see a common theme here. You have this order of building data products. It might work the first time around, but there are lots of little issues that all compete for priority for your very precious data science resource. How do you figure out what to go after? So whenever I think about this problem, I think about a board game that I like to play a lot. Pandemic. Has any one of you played this game before? Oh, sweet. It's a really good game. It's a cooperative game. This is probably not the best analogy to use right now, pandemic, but the game, I guarantee you, it's a great game. So essentially, this is the game. You have these viruses that are popping up in the world. You have a team of resources that you need to deploy to, one, kill these viruses so that they don't wipe out humankind, and develop a cure for these viruses. Really not the best analogy. Now, how do you win? It is a pretty difficult game, and after playing it many, many times, I figured this out. The only way you win a pandemic is that you need to optimally deploy minimal amount of resource in the right order. You need to optimally deploy minimum amount of resource at the right order. So when we think about building data products, that's very true. We need to figure out what is the optimal order of deploying your data science resource in order for stuff to move in the right direction. Now, coming back to what we